And another good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. It's your Sunday edition. And of course, today we'll get right to it. Let's dive into something quite unexpected. It's oil. But it's not the palm oil that's sizzling in African pans. No, this is the real black gold that keeps the world spinning. I'm talking about oil dug from the earth. Now, you see, we can't talk about black gold oil without talking about OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Think of OPEC as the original oil cartel founded back in 1960 by 5 nations who decided, if we're the ones with the wells, why should outsiders dictate our prices? So they formed a WhatsApp group. And Nigeria, well, we joined that WhatsApp group in 1971. And since then, it's been kind of like a blessing and also a burden. But I'll tell you how. Here's where it gets interesting. In OPEC, there are big voices, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and also the UAE. And then there are the small voices where African countries often find themselves. Our barrels are welcome, but our voices, not always heard as loudly. That power imbalance is not new. I mean, we've seen it many places. It mirrors a bigger story about Africa in the world. And it's not just OPEC. Anytime Africa shows signs of getting it right, the West finds a way to insert itself, not always with applause, sometimes with a kind of interference that feels like pulling the handbrake just at the start when you're beginning to get speed. Now, you see, in policies that suddenly shift markets, those are the kind of things that you begin to see. You see it in sanctions that freeze out economies just as they begin to thrive. And you also see it in the subtle instigations, security crisis, political meddling, financial pressures, embargoes here and there. All these seem to pop up right when progress starts to look good and sustainable for African countries. So should you be expecting any of these for Nigeria anytime soon? Well, I dare say maybe you can bet your bottom dollar on it. Because let's be honest, a strong, resource-secure Africa changes the global dynamic, the global equation. It threatens the quiet comfort of those, high countries whom for decades depended on Africa being the supplier, but not the decision makers. It's like in football, the West has always preferred Africa to be the academy, the resource, not the Champions League winner. I mean, you produce the talents, yes, you export the resources, but don't you dare dominate the pitch. Oh, no. It's the same thing. Now, Nigeria's oil story is back in the headlines. For the second month in a row, we've pumped above our OPEC quota, averaging 1.507 million barrels per day in July. I mean, for a country that spent years struggling with thefts, vandalism, pipeline, and also underinvestment, I mean, that's like finally scoring 2 back-to-back goals after a losing streak. And yes, it means more foreign exchange, more strength for the naira, and a little more muscle for the government revenue. But here's the thing. It's all exciting until it also shakes the OPEC table. Because when you oversupply, prices fall, Nigeria gains some quick cash, but the OPEC nations, the ones who prefer high, stable prices, they're not smiling. So if too many producers begin to copy our play, unity cracks and everyone risks losing. Here's the witty part, however. Oil politics is like a game of draft. Every move you make opens a space for someone else. Nigeria just pumped, we just jumped like a piece by pumping above our quota. Bold, yes it is, but now comes the harder part, keeping your crown on the board. Because in a game of draft, you don't win by one flashy move, you win by anticipating the traps as you go along. Firstly, let's talk about inefficiency. It's one thing to pump more oil, it's another thing to actually see the money. And for decades, Nigeria, we've been champions at producing barrels, but amateurs at collecting a profit. Oil thefts, subsidies that swallow revenue whole, pipelines that leak more than government press statements. I mean, these are the self-made hurdles. Imagine playing draft with holes in your side of the pieces. You keep moving, but you never really get far ahead. That's just the way it's gonna go. Then comes interference. The global oil market is like a nosy neighbor who doesn't just celebrate with you when you purchase a brand new car. No, they would also come downstairs in the dead of night and purposely scratch that brand new paint that you've got while you're sleeping. Because Western powers, they can adjust policies, they can spark demand shifts or even stir instability in your backyard, all to keep Africa's advantage in check. So while Nigeria is celebrating 2 months of quota-breaking glory, someone somewhere is already calculating how to make sure that that streak doesn't become a habit. Like I said from before, if you want to bet your bottom dollar on it, go right ahead, because it will happen. And there's more. That's the danger. Bold moves make headlines, but sustained progress requires strategy. Protecting your gain means plugging the leaks at home and shielding against that handbrake abroad. Otherwise, today's extra barrels will turn into tomorrow's extra problems. So maybe the bigger lesson for Africa, for Nigeria, is this. It's not enough to dig oil. You must also dig your heels in. Build a system, strengthen the institutions, and shield your progress from those who would rather see you stumble. Because black gold might belong to the world, but its true value must first belong to the soil that gave it. And here in Nigeria, we give a lot, and we should protect that. And that's our serving for the monologue this morning. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. I'm not here alone. We also have Judith Atibi for a Sunday morning. Judith, how you doing?
Woohoo, I'm doing good. Good morning to you, Ms.
Yes,
looking
indeed.
like a black whale.
Black
gold, sorry.
Stop already. Stop. We'll continue. In any case, I'll be right with you, and then we'll take the papers, yes?
Of course. A very good morning to you and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Breakfast Extra, your favorite way to wake up in the morning and get you started for the week ahead. Now, this morning we're tracking a number of things on Breakfast Extra. We're going to get started in Maiduguri. We'll kick things off there, where a surge of street beggars has become more than just a humanitarian crisis. It's now a test of urban order and public safety. That's our big report at the top of the hour this morning. From Maiduguri, we head to Lagos State for our extra special, where residents of Magodo Phase 2 are locking horns with a government-backed developer. At the center of the dispute, construction on land originally marked for environmental protection, and the community says the risks are too high to ignore. From there, we head to our Wellness Central for this morning, where we take a step inside the Nigerian workplace, where stress, toxic cultures, and long hours are quietly wearing people down. So how do you cope when the office or your office is a source of your anxiety? We'll be breaking that all down here on the program this morning. And for our big story later today, we zoom in on Nigeria's transport challenges after the tragic incident or accident in Auchi involving Dangote truck and Phyna's sister. Now, beyond the headlines, it raises hard questions about driver training, company accountability, and what smart transport systems could mean for a country that is battling both with rising fuel costs and deadly roads. All this plus our regular updates as well, and analysis and conversations, and of course updates from the elections that happened yesterday. But first, let's turn to the pages and see what's making the headlines across today's newspapers this morning.
Yes,
Good morning
indeed.
To you,
Morning to you again. Nice little print you've got going there for a Sunday. Beginning to notice the trend. It's a good one.
Yeah, oh yeah. I wear prints every
It's a good thing
Sunday.
I have just one trend. Can't do more than that.
Yes, man. That's it, man. You just cut your hair and show up. I
okay,
know this person that was
we're
getting
good.
married. I can't remember who. It was a celebrity. And then they were asking him about, himself and his wife and how the preparation is going. He's like, I don't think I should be the one answering the question because I'm just a man. I'll come in with my tuxedo and my
That's
haircut.
it. We're done.
We're
good.
done.
We're
So
good
I
for
think you
today.
should be asking her. I think it was Robert Patterson. Yeah, they were asking. It's so cute.
Now, tell you what we're going to do now. Let's take a very short break before we go into the dailies. Do stay with us. We've got quite a number of them, and we'll be bringing them your way in a bit. Hey, welcome back. We're going to skip the dailies and bring that to you later. But first, let's go to our very first big report. Now, the streets of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, are witnessing a sharp rise in the number of street beggars. Now, this growing trend has become a major concern for residents who fear its impact on public safety, urban order, and also social welfare. Now, many of the beggars are children, we hear, the elderly also, and people living with disabilities. are forced onto the streets as they struggle to survive. Now, beyond the surface, this development raises urgent questions about the deeper socio-economic realities facing the region. With security challenges, displacement from insurgency, and weak social safety nets, Maiduguri is grappling with a humanitarian issue that not spills over into traffic disruption, crime risks, and stained community relations. It's much more. Now, News Central's Umaru Kirawa has been tracking this social crisis closely, and he now brings us a report on what's driving the surge of beggars on Maiduguri streets, the impact on everyday life, and what government officials are saying about the growing concern. Take a look.
In Maiduguri's Bulabulin community, Hadiza Bala, a mother of 4, is one of thousands forced to ask for alms on the streets just to survive.
Daidai da 1,000 wannan ba na maganinta. Abinda za mu ci mu sha ma a baran nan ba samun sa muke ba, he ka wuni ba kai 600 naka ba. Ko shi ne ya sa mu ga wannan bara, in dai an ba mu jari ni ko a yau aka ban jari ba zan ƙara bara ba, na gaji ni ma da wannan rana tana duka na ga ba kuɗi.
Shin ya ka je rukin ba kuma ni na kwata ko ma kuma san mama gudan ya noyin ba. Tara so rema kala kan ya sha asu in ba kam da koyin. Am zara man gorde ko daga na ran dewa wan godan ge.
Displacement, poverty, and unemployment are among the main drivers, with children, the elderly, and people with disabilities increasingly visible on the streets. The problem is foiling deeper social challenges and sometimes even accidents.
People nowadays they only know about giving birth to children, but to take that responsibility, which is the social responsibility, they are not doing that. So I think equally law should be made, and there should be a stringent laws and measures government should take in order to address this problem. Otherwise, as I said, equally like the male child, the female child is even worse.
Initially, in Borno State, the government initiated cash transfer to selected persons living with disability to curb street begging, but the situation seems to require more holistic approach.
Mutanen namu muna ja musu kunne su guji wannan abin ma ba baran bane shi ila baran tukuna, amma yanzu hali da ake cikin nan wuya mai lafiyan ma ga kaga ya sha garin sa yana bara. Kwanan nan ma mai girma gwamna ya dauki ma'aikata a cikin mu makafi wanda a yanzu haka sun kai mutum 15 sun an karbi abin nan nasu detail nasu an dauke su aiki suna koyarwa a makarantar makafi wanda yanzu haka suna aiki. To ire-iren nan idan da akwai commission nan za a iya kai su karkashin commission nan wanda ma ba su da ilimin za su dinga koyarwa.
Individuals soliciting money in public spaces is gradually becoming a stark social problem in Nigeria, particularly in the northern parts of the country.
I called all the blind people, I don't know if you are aware, almost 5,000 of them in Ramos Square for documentation. Almost 1,300 and something came from Potis, Komunguru, and Damaturu. I went and told the governor, these are not people from our state. Governor said, we are in one country. Don't remove them from the list. We were paying 30,000. When we see the money is too much, we started paying 15,000. The governor said, let me pay 20. From the first year to the 6th year, Allah go be the money we have been paying them. 4 years, 30,000. I am trying to create Zaka Center, 4 centers from within the state.
Initiatives such as an elderly home, also known as residential care facility, which are usually established for the elderly in developed countries, are said to be critical to be initiated in this part of the world. This is said to curb the growing concerns, including making street children learn trades and supported with startup kits for industrialization.
Muna roko ga wannan gwamnati mai alfarma ta sa wannan commission nan hannu saboda akwai ma'aikata kala-kala. Idan kai gurgu ne ga kai ya walda a cikin wannan commission din, idan kai gurgu ne ga kai yin kafinta a cikin wannan commission din, duk wani abu da dai hannu zai yi ba wani kafa ba ga kai yi.
While the Borno state government has since banned street begging, the situation is visible on its street, a clear need for a practical solution to the problem. Establishment of an agency or commission for the persons living with disability, in addition to funding it, seems to be a pathway to tackle the ever-growing population. In Borno State, for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Now, from what we see, the Maiduguri street is begging. Its begging crisis reflects both the scars of conflict and the pressures of poverty. the challenge is not only humanitarian, but also one that one would say, needs, is a test of urban order and social stability if left unchecked. And so to explore this further, we're joined by our correspondent who filed in the report, Umaru, Kirawa, who's pretty much spoken to all stakeholders, from the beggars as well as, the persons living with disability, plus the stakeholders and the governance as well. So, Umaru, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. You have been there. You brought us that report. And so I do have to ask you, in terms of, tracking the story closely, what struck you the most engaging with the beggars? Is it that the government has still not found a lasting solution, or the solutions that they're finding do not meet their own needs?
Well, first, the situation of street begging is a national problem, so to speak. And this case in Borno State, I think it's not enough to give the street beggars or persons living with disability fish. It's not sustainable. I mean, the government really need to work out modalities of empowering them, teaching them some soft and hard skills that they can earn a means of livelihood by themselves. For instance, there are so many types of trades that the government can really engage, since the government has already established some vocational training centers across different parts of the state. These persons living with disability and, of course, the street beggars can be engaged in these vocational training centers in different trades of maybe tailoring and fashion design, carpentry and welding and fabrication, food and nutrition. I mean, different type of trades that they can earn a means of survival. And instead of giving them that monthly stipend of 30,000 or 20,000 naira, that money can be accumulated. At the end of the day, they can be given as a startup capital and then some kits in which they can earn a means of survival. Indirectly, the issue of street begging will be addressed, and sustainably, these persons that are begging will have a means of survival. Like one of the street beggars said, she's tired of the street begging because in a day she hardly earns 600 naira, and that 600 naira cannot even buy food and cater for some of our needs and that of our children. As such, empowering them, giving them a means of survival, I think is one of the sustainable means and practical solution to this multifaceted problem that is sort of a time bomb.
All right.
Now, Kirawa, a very interesting suggestion. They're very noble as well when you say accumulate that money and use it for something developmental for these people. However, even if you give them these nets, fishing nets, instead of the fish, don't you need to educate them? Because there's only so much you can give a person who's not used to handling such equipment, or maybe monies, that they would be able to use it properly. How about reorientation? How about, some sort of education so they can find their feet? I don't know what your take is on that.
Well, that should be part of the vocational training, educating them, telling them, discouraging them from street begging. I can remember the Commissioner of Poverty Alleviation, when we were asking him with regard to the issue, he said some of the beggars are even richer than you people. So you are just sympathizing with them. But the situation goes beyond that. The government really need to work out modalities, like I've said, vocational training and skills is critical. Industrialize them. We need to work towards that, because these people mostly...
I hear that, Kirawa, but then another question is really the origin of these beggars. Has there been any authority who's tried to find out where they're from? Are these internally displaced people who are running away from insurgents from inside of the state or maybe even outside the state? Is there any data to show who they are?
Well, the state government, like the Commissioner for Poverty Alleviation, Saina Buba, said, they have started, at the initial stage, the government has started profiling the persons living with disability and even the beggars when the government banned street begging. Unfortunately, a large chunk of the people are not from Borno. They are coming from communities and states, in different states across northern Nigeria, some in Yobe, some in Far Sokoto and other states. And that is why I said it's a national problem that requires a whole lot of practical solution, in which the state governors across different parts of the country should come out
We seem to be having issues with Kirawa's audio there. If we can just try to fix it. Umaru, just be on standby very quickly for us because we're about to bring in our second guest. Also joining us is a public affairs analyst, Ibrahim Marawa. He joins us, Amarawa, I beg your pardon. He joins us live as well. Ibrahim, it's good to have you and good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. So there's something that Umaru just said before he went off, and that was that the beggars, we have to bear in mind that the beggars oftentimes are not from the state. They're not indigents or residents of that state, right? And we know that there's a rising insecurity in the north, whether in Plateau or even in the outskirts of Borno or border towns in Nasarawa. We've seen the surge of insecurity, and that means displacement of people. So where does documenting lie? How do we know these people? You know, because I feel like a better documentation of them, their names, their vocation, what they used to do before they were displaced, can also aid in reintegrating them back into the society.
Okay, thank you very much. Street begging, especially among the children, is a big problem. And when you talk about identifying them, reintegrating them back to their ancestral homes, the situation is not peculiar to only those who are coming to the state. As you know, this is a normal practice in northern Nigeria where parents send their children to many states in the search of Quranic education. But here in Borno State, we have complex situations. There are some who are displaced by the recurrent or the ongoing insurgency. Some are pushed to the streets because of the extreme poverty that lingering in northern Nigeria, as we all know, is obvious. And others may be displaced by the natural disaster, flooding, and so on and so forth. So there are so many issues that escalating the situation. But as you know, northern Nigeria are largely agrarian communities. As you can see in northwest, we have a banditry that are pushing people out from their farms. Here we have insurgency and also weak governance, lack of social amenities, which resulted to rural-urban migration, which is a very big problem that nobody is doing anything about it. Rural-urban migration is a result of lack of social amenities in the rural areas. Mm-hmm. Because if there's social or adequate social amenities in the rural areas, people from villages, they have no business in the city because they don't used to eat. They are used to their farming, trading among the many communities in their environment. But as a result of lack of adequate social amenities, push them out of their villages to come to the cities in search of greener pastures, especially among the parents. Living in the city is not an easy task, so the parents failed to meet up their responsibilities. Mm-hmm. That's why some children are not even going out. Some children are going out without the knowledge of their parent. If you stop them on the street and ask them where are their parents, they'll tell you, my father is so, my father is so.
But Ibrahim,
yes.
Noting what you're saying about the kinds of people that are out there on the streets, from beggars who are, hit hard by the economy, what about profiling them? Do you think that profiling them, getting to know who they are, where they are from, would help the situation?
Yes, that's the issue.
And whose responsibility should it be?
Lie on government. You know, having social data is another issue that we are lacking in this country. It will be difficult even for the government to identify all of these children on the street begging because there's no adequate data to rely on. As I heard from our colleague, he's saying some street beggars are not from the state, yes. And the government is giving raw data always about 1.8 million out of school children. And some of them, yes, are not from the state, but profiling them is a huge task, which I don't think the government even started, because we don't have a system where we will know who is coming to the state, who is from one particular local government or the other. You understand? But I think if the government will try to start profiling them, it will be a very good solution, or they give them avenue to plan. Okay. If you don't plan, it's like you plan to fail. So I think the government should start doing something on time in regards to capturing data of the street children, to know who are from the state, who are coming in, and what are on ground to cater for them.
All right, then, Ibrahim. Thank you, Ibrahim. Umaru, let's come back to you. In the course of gathering this report, I wanted to know what you heard from the residents of Maiduguri. Are they empathizing with these beggars? Are they saying, oh, it's just out of the situation of Nigeria? Do they relate to their frustration, or are they complaining about their presence on the streets?
Of mixed reaction. Some people sympathize with them, while others are not really happy with what is happening. Some people are even scared of them because of the situation they find themselves. And these are situations that normally nobody is immune to it, unless God save you in this country. As such, there is really the need for a multifaceted approach, an early approach. This should serve as an early warning, so that this issue will not escalate into a time bomb, like I've earlier said, that will consume all of us.
Umaru, we know that in the north, the predominant religion there is Islam, and one of the tenets of Islam is almsgiving. And so one can look at, that, not saying that it's a contributing factor, but we know that it's a social-cultural thing that is in the north. How does that, what is the intersection between, almsgiving, the social-cultural issues in the north, and seeing these numbers? Is there, giving these factors that I've named out, do you think that it is out of hands for governance to really and truly, create a long-term systemic solution?
Well, it is not out of hand per se. In fact, there is an Islamic system of zakat. It's a process which the commissioner talked about. It's a 2.5% of your saving that you usually give to vulnerable persons, and vulnerable persons have been classified: persons living with disability, the poor, the indigent, and so on and so forth. As such, the Islamic way of addressing this crisis is very well clear, but unfortunately, people are not abiding by the religious tenets, by the religious prescriptions of addressing this crisis. And of course, even the beggars too. There are procedures, there are processes in which you engage in this type of act, not serving as nuisance or problem to the community or society. Unfortunately, even those that are opportune, like you said, zakat is one pillar, is one of the pillars of Islam, and mostly, hardly some give this zakat, which is mandatory charity prescribed by the Islamic belief on Muslims that have reached the nisab level of given zakat. That is 2.5% of their savings. Unfortunately, this is not happening, and the government really need to work out modalities, even if it means maybe going with the Islamic system, or working out a neutral system whereby, since Nigeria is a country that has Christians, has Muslims, and so on and so forth, and some of the beggars could be Muslims, some of them could be Christians. As such, there is the need for a unified means in which this street begging can be addressed, and charity should also be done in a professional, in a manner that is humane, that will respect human rights, and there will be no any rancor. Like the Commissioner for Poverty said that the government is planning to establish zakat centers, 4 different zakat centers across Maiduguri metropolis, in different centers, whereby the government will ensure that people that are willing to give charity will go there and then donate, and then later in the evening, the people that are vulnerable and the indigent, those monies or those things will be shared with them accordingly.
Right.
I believe it's doable.
Right. Let me turn to you, Ibrahim, and ask this question, because we're still talking about social-cultural issues. If we look at the federal level, because I want to take it away from the states and look at federal level, one of the presidents who have, in his time, I mean, if memory serves me well, was very, very, very intentional about the North was Goodluck Jonathan, and he did that with the I forgot the name of the schools now. But it was the schools that was also, I think it was Islamia. Al-Majri schools, there we go. So it was a merger of Islamia and also Boko schools as well, where they were teaching in English language and Arabic, and it was scattered across the North. We also saw subsidizing of healthcare and primary healthcare centers was amplified in the North, so that we don't see people who are leaving with. Can you hear me, Ibrahim?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. I can hear you clearly.
So with all of that put in place, how can the federal? Do you think that the federal have carried on with that legacy, or have they, reduced from that?
Okay, thank you very much. As you mentioned earlier, the effort made by the former President Goodluck Jonathan in regards to creation of Quranic schools in northern Nigeria, yes, it was a good effort, but even that time, the effort lacked stakeholders' engagement in regards to how such school will alleviate the proliferation of street begging. And I saw that during the Jonathan as just a political campaign, because the problem is so huge to the extent that required all stakeholders to come on board. Because as you know, primary education is the responsibility of the local government. And the local government is supposed to be part of design of any program regards to take up the street children on the street. And again, this administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu came up with the idea of creation commission for Sangaya. But the reality is this: the federal, state, and local government needs to come together, sit down, and come up with the modalities that first to address social problem, because people need to know that if you give birth to the children, you are responsible of taking care of that child, not government. Government is not taking care of all the families. Government is providing social services such as education, health, and so on and so forth. But taking good care of children is the responsibility of parents that need to meet up their responsibilities. And another factor that we failed to talk about is economic factor. Some parents have no option because they are battling with 3 square meals. So
Ibrahim,
talking about education.
Ibrahim, just a second. I don't want you, if you can hear me, I don't want you to go too far, right? Because I want to just dissect some of the factors that you just raised. One of them was that you said that those measures were not, it didn't bring in stakeholders. And so for that reason, it didn't work so well, and that it was politically motivated. Would you say the same about the conditional cash transfer that the late Muhammadu Buhari did as well? Because it was predominantly in the north, and the social register, from what we heard and from what reports were said from the presidency at the time, was that recipients of the conditional cash transfers were predominantly in the north and was the poorest of the poor, to quote them directly. Then secondly, you talked about the children and childbirth. Goodluck Jonathan's time also did try to push for a one-child policy, which was quickly shut down by the North as well, saying that you cannot choose, you cannot predict or detect, the law cannot detect for people in a democratic election or in a democratic system how many children they ought to raise. And he complained, I remember the presidency at the time, complained about the population issue and how it was fueling the poverty rate in the North. So with those two, is it still political? Would you say that cash transfer, social cash transfer was political, and that the one-child policy was also not engaging stakeholders?
Yes, let me say yes and no at the same time.
All right,
if you look at that issue of cash transfer, it's just to alleviate, not to eradicate the issue. And just look at the amount. The conditional cash transfer is ranging from 10,000, 50,000. which is just to alleviate some problem that poor, vulnerable people that were in. But the reality is, if the government failed to address economic problems, that issue will still persist. And coming back to the issue of one child birth or child spacing or whatever we may call it, and there are so many Western countries that they don't have such laws, but people are not giving birth to so many children because they know that it's their responsibility to take care of them. So if you bring the whole issue together, it's all lies on a good educational system. If we have social amenities, you don't have to tell people how many, because they know that they don't have to pay for school fees, they don't have to pay for health. So they know that I think it's good to have many children because they can go to farm, they can do this to take care of them. But in the issue where there's no access to farming, the economy is poor. Even if you have one child, you'll be suffer to take care of that child.
Well, Mr. Ibrahim Amarawa and also Umaru Kirawa, I want to say thank you very much for coming on and having this conversation with us. We are well pleased that you guys have joined. Thank you indeed.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now do stay tuned because very soon we're going to be checking the by-elections results from Oyo State and across Nigeria, which were held only just yesterday with our correspondents. So do stay tuned. We'll be back.
Let's continue this time. Let's bring you updates in this by-elections, the supplementary elections that happened across Nigeria. In Oyo State, the People's Democratic Party's Fola Oyekunle has been declared the winner of the Ibadan North Federal Constituency by-election. The Independent National Electoral Commission announced the result early Sunday morning. Oyekunle secured a total of 18,404 votes, decisively defeating his closest challenger, and that's Adewale Olatunji of the All Progressives Congress, APC, who garnered 8,312 votes. This election was conducted to fill the vacant seat left by the late Representative Olaide Akinremi, who passed away on July 10th of 2024. And in Ondo State, the All Progressives Congress has scored a major victory as Omosende Igbenedion has been declared the winner of the Ovia Federal Constituency by-election. The official announcement was made by the returning officer, Professor Clement Igodalo, under the supervision of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Igbenedion secured a decisive win with 17,093 votes, far ahead of her closest rival, Ikpo Moswa Ikpitaye of the People's Democratic Party, who received just 3,283 votes. Other parties trailed significantly, with ADC polling 915 votes, NNPP 214, PRP 45, and SDP just 25 votes. Still in Ondo State, the All Progressives Congress still in Edo State, the All Progressives Congress APC has achieved a decisive victory in the Edo Central Senatorial by-election. The Independent National Electoral Commission officially declared Honorable Dr. Joseph Ikpa a winner at the Collation Center in Ibiaja. Senator-elect Ikpa secured a landslide with about 105,129 votes, overwhelmingly defeating his closest rival, Joe Okoje of the People's Democratic Party, who garnered 15,146 votes.
Now in Kano State, the All Progressives Congress has clinched victory in the Gari Sanyawa supplementary election. The returning officer, Professor Mohammed Waziri of Bayero University, announced the results Sunday, declaring APC candidate Gaba Gormai the winner with 31,472 votes. Gormai defeated the New Nigeria People's Party candidate Yusuf Maigado, who polled 27,931 votes. The supplementary election was held following an inconclusive initial poll in the constituency. And meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party in Kano State has condemned the disruption of the by-election for the Bazuaye State Assembly seat. The statement on Saturday by the party chairman, the state chairman, Yusuf Ado Kibia, condemns the strong terms, he condemned in strong terms the use of violence or the threat of violence to influence voters and the outcome of the election, saying it is unacceptable and must be condemned in the strongest possible terms. And now the federal government has apprehended notorious leaders and masterminds of the Ansaru terrorist group, also known as Nigeria's Al-Qaeda affiliate. We'll bring you that information in no time, but first, let's focus on the by-elections that have only just concluded, and as we can see, the results that have been trickling in. In the studio here with us, we have our new central correspondent, Victor Mbadike, who was in Oyo State, to be exact, Ibadan, Bodija, if I'm not mistaken. And we also had you on the show yesterday. But thank you very much for such stellar reporting. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday. From what you've seen, being on the ground, do you think that this is kind of like maybe a play of what will happen come 2027? How smooth were the processes, the electorate, their turnout, their, well, everything put together? What do you think?
First of all, it's not a coincidence that you have most of the states where this election held, by elections basically. It's not a coincidence that the parties, in charge, winning these elections. When we go to Bodija, of course, Bodija is one of the epic centers of Ibadan North, one of the key towns. And Ibadan North, like I said earlier, is, one of the powerhouse in terms of politicians, looking for votes. I mean, the residents there, in terms of numbers, we have about 500,000 persons. So it's a major, major town for any politician to gather numbers to win any election
but
at whatever level.
At the beginning, because when we came to you,
at the beginning, yeah, the official time for that election began at 8:30, and we noticed the majority of the officials are just sitting idly, doing nothing. Folks are not really coming out to do anything. And whoever you saw at that electoral environment were just party agents waiting for electors to come out to vote. Just about a couple of hours later, they began coming out in their trinkles, and voting started earnestly. But sadly, for the majority of the wards we visited, you had as much as 1,000 persons registered in that particular polling unit, and just only 10%, maybe just about 1 and 8%, coming out to exercise the franchise. That's really, really low. Some persons will argue that it's a by-election kind of law. Maybe they really don't.
Yeah.
But you also know that when it comes to electoral issues, the by-elections, local government elections, are even the most important because they're closest to the people. To the people, the grassroots. It's sad that we are still discussing, appealing to people to come out and vote in this 21st century. And you really may not blame it because they have their own reasons. Like one of them said yesterday in Yoruba, whether you vote or you don't vote, but that's their own perception. But eventually, by 12-1, we began to see them coming out in their numbers. But still, if you look at the overall percentage, it's still not up to. But well, that's just the reality, basically.
Just the reality, indeed. Well, joining us now is going to join us is a member of the PDP party in Oyo State, and that is Michael Ogunshino, who joins us live video. Mr. Michael Ogunshino, it's good to have you join us. We understand that your member and also one of the candidates for your party has now won the Ibadan North, if I'm correct. And so let me ask you, first of all, are you happy with the conduct of INEC? I mean, of course you will be, given that your candidate won. But humor us, your observations from the elections in Ibadan North.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not just a member of the PDP. I'm actually the state publicity secretary and at the same time the state youth leader of the party in Oyo State. So speaking for this election, I must, number one, commend INEC for a yeoman's job. They worked very hard. Given the fact that we have a very large number of polling units, we have 512 polling units. That is the largest in the state. So which means that they have to deploy a lot of resources, both human and material resources, to ensure that we had a very good outing. And I want to also use this medium to thank our voters, the electorate, for coming out to identify with our party, to also allude to the fact that they are okay, they are fine with what Governor Chimakinde is doing, with what the PDP is doing in Oyo State, and to also say it with loud voice that Oyo is a PDP state. And to also confirm that PDP is not dead. There is nothing wrong with the PDP, either in the Southwest or in the nation. This noise of coalition is not affecting us, we're not bothered. We are aware that there are only two parties in Nigeria, active parties in Nigeria, the PDP and the APC. So I want to thank INEC for a very humorous job. The work we had yesterday, at some point, I knew that early in the morning, they had a lot of logistical issues that some of us had to actually step in to see how we can help them out. But really, they had issues in the morning. At some point, the Beavers had issues too. The Beavers weren't working. I couldn't vote until very late yesterday. I couldn't vote until when the election was almost over. You know, it was that serious. But by and large, INEC did their best yesterday, and thankfully, the will of the people prevailed. We worked very, very hard, and people saw us campaigned. We campaigned for the people. We campaigned for the people. We shared, introduced our candidates. They accepted it from us, and they came out in their numbers to vote for us. And you see, this issue of voters apathy that has become a fundamental problem in this country is actually caused by there's a trust deficit between the people and the government. There's a lot of trust deficit, and it's a fundamental problem. And the earlier you understand that, the better for us.
All right, Michael.
There's a fundamental issue.
Now, Michael,
first
of all, to say congratulations. We can hear the celebration in your voice. I'm not exactly sure what you meant by the only two parties in Oyo State being the APC and the PDP, but I'll let that slide. Now, let's talk about the conduct of INEC for yesterday. Let's talk about the conduct of INEC for yesterday, the fact that your party won. Now, from what you saw and how they conducted the by-elections, if the tides were the other way around and the APC won, would you still be satisfied with the conduct of INEC?
You see, we are a democratic political party, and in every contest there must be a winner. There is no law that says that people must win the election. No, the electorates will have to choose ultimately. We campaigned, we spoke to them, we reached out to them, we engaged them. So if we had actually lost the election, of course, we still tell INEC that you did your best. It might be painful, but we have to accept the reality. Don't forget that the leader of our party, Governor Chimakinde, is a democratic person, believes so much in democracy. As I speak to you, we have 8 reps in the APC. Our 3 senators are in the APC. We have assembly members, and we are coexisting peacefully. So if any of them, you see, one of the things we keep telling people is that PDP will come, PDP will go. APC will come, APC will go. Our state will remain. So what is important for us as a people, as a state, as a nation, is the fact that we look beyond our pecuniary and parochial differences and affiliations. So actually stay what is true and what is right. If APC won the election, and the election was adjudged to be free, fair, and credible, we will accept the results. In fact, by now, as the state policy secretary, I'd have actually issued a statement to congratulate the winner. I'm expecting my brother in the APC to greet me a congratulations. Probably it's not yet awake. The vote margin is so much. Maybe they're still sleeping. I know when he's awake, he should have sent me a congratulatory message. Say, Michael, you have done well.
All right.
So it doesn't matter who wins. What is important for us is that our state progresses.
All right. Well, we'll switch gears away from Oyo State for now. Mr. Michael, we'll still keep you on standby as we bring in our correspondent from Edo State, and that is Amenze Bazuaye. She joins us live now. Amenze, a very good morning to you. We have seen the results trickle in for Edo, and it's loud and clear. It seems that APC has now found a home in Edo State. Tell us, I need to know, first of all, to start with, have you spoken to members of the APC camp and those who have now been announced winners? What's the mood like there?
All right, thank you very much, CJ. So like you rightly said, APC actually found a home here in Edo State. We have the candidates from the APC in the Afternoon constituency of what they Canadian actually coming out top. And of course, to beat her closest rival of the PDP, talking about the Pongosta IT the margin was quite large. Also, in the Edo Central Senatorial District, we had Joseph Ikia coming out tops, and of course, his closest rival, the person of Prince Joe. The APC members here in Edo State are quite distant. They're quite excited. But over the night, once the results were announced, a lot of them have been excited. A lot of them have actually been jubilating all around. On the other side, talking about the PDP, I spoke with the chairman of the PDP, in person of Isaac Tony. He was actually complaining that there was a lot of cash inducement during the by-election yesterday. And of course, he also talked about the fact that there was intimidation of some voters who they allege that the APC actually tried to stop from exercising their franchise. We're going to be getting that live later on today. I'll be speaking to him in Benin City because that's where he is. I'm not currently there. But once I get there, I will talk with him live so we can get that on our station as well. So basically, the mood in the APC side has actually been really exciting.
There were complaints about the beavers being very slow when it comes to accrediting voters. And even we know, I mean, from your report there, the governor, when he tried to vote, it took minutes. And also our observers who joined us, our partners, and that's Kimpact, when we had the team lead for Kimpact Development Initiative. He also did, allude to beavers being slow. I just need to, talk to you about that in terms of their process. INEC, from your observation and speaking to all of the voters, towards the end of the day, did the service pick back up? Was it smooth, or was there still those gaps in terms of, the beavers working and verification?
It didn't pick up, actually. It was still the same across a lot of local government areas, of course, polling units where people were voting. Some persons, they had to either take off their glasses, take off their caps, tilt your face to one side, pan your head up, pan your head down. The INEC officials tried their best to ensure that everybody who came out to vote was actually accredited. But for some persons, it took a while. Some were actually disenfranchised. They couldn't even actually vote because they were not able to be accredited. It was really tough for a lot of persons. Like I rightly said yesterday, the Edo State governor was one of those who actually went through that. It took about 7 minutes. He went through a lot, took off his glasses, took off his cap, changed directions, changed positions before he was actually able to be accredited yesterday. And it happened to a lot of persons across board. Some persons who probably have grown in age, their faces have changed. I even had one person jokingly say he has been suffering, so that's why his face looks like this. And of course, the beavers machine could not take him or could not capture him, basically. I think INEC needs to do a lot more in subsequent elections to ensure that this doesn't take place, because you cannot disenfranchise people who are coming out with their full heart to actually cast their vote.
I can't help you here because you've just armed me, Bazuaye, Amenze. You just armed me because Sakpa is real. So you're trying to say that if I was to go back to vote now in 2027, beavers will not recognize me. I've reduced in size.
Don't think that will happen to you.
She has she's what's the word, filled in since the last time, so
gosh,
you look
I
okay.
wish.
But I want us to come back inside of the studio. Amenze, thank you very much. We'll still be coming back to you, but we have Victor here in the studio with us, and I'd like to ask him questions regarding the beavers and the use yesterday. So in Oyo State, what was it like? Did they have the same problems, or was it smooth? And if it was or wasn't, do you think that this could be replayed in the 2027 elections?
Well, for most parts of where we covered, in terms of the wards that we're able to reach out, to be honest and to be fair, we really didn't experience any such case of beavers, malfunctioning or any, incidents of any kind at those wards. But a few hours later, we had some domestic election observers who approached us to say, hey, we were at some wards, particularly Ward 6, where the beavers was recognizing the faces. Ward 6, same about the north. Okay. Where the beavers was malfunctioning, disenfranchising a lot of persons who really wanted to vote. Now, what's the specific issue here? Now, when they pick up the beavers, okay, to put on their faces, it doesn't recognize those pictures or the faces because what is registered in the beavers, that the picture there is younger than what they look like now. So serious.
Is it a younger?
Technology is such an interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So what about the biometrics then? Because there's biometrics with thumb printing as well.
The biometrics, again, was not really working. So they were using photos.
Exactly.
So it was a serious problem.
So going into 2027, we still haven't cracked it.
This is just a preamble to the major elections coming in a couple of years' time. And I do hope that the electoral body will look in some of these. I never expected we're still going to be, talking about
beavers,
having, this kind of
2 years after 2023.
By and large, in the Borno North, maybe not so pronounced, but it's an indication that if this thing is not checked appropriately, we might have a bigger problem, come 2020. Don't forget that the election was just basically in the Borno North.
Right.
That's just the local government. So imagine if it was a larger picture. Maybe we're going to have a lot of incidences of beavers or biometrics, making a mess of the entire thing.
And so that means that INEC work is cut out for them, really, ahead of 2027, because besides cracking down on early campaigning, they now have to look at, all the technicalities and the technology that the beavers is using and upgrading it. Does that mean that Nigerians will now have to go back to their offices for a recapturing of their faces ahead of 2027? And what would the logistics look like? I mean, this is me just, making an observation and,
First off, I'm not INEC, so I cannot speak for them, but I expect that they take the initiative to begin to look at these issues, carefully, because it might look minute to them after it's just after it's just what 6, after it's just few percent. But how many people came out to vote actually? So how many people? It's a very serious issue. Ibadan is one of the, in fact, is the largest in terms of population, in terms of size. So imagine if it was a government election. That's disaster. So for the fact that it's just a local government and a couple of wards, particularly Ward 6, where it was really pronounced, I think INEC should begin to look at it critically so that people will not begin to lose faith, lose confidence in what INEC really can do in terms of organizing a proper election, in terms of the credibility of these elections, in terms of people not raising eyebrows and raising questions about, are these guys really ready for the main elections in 2027? That's something I think they should be looking at. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Should we come back to Michael? I hope we still have Michael on. Michael, if you're still on, wanted to ask you, same question regarding the BVAS and the use in these elections. Do you think that this is a sample for 2027? Do you think that the problems that we still have many years after, that we're still going to be finding that in 2027? Or what suggestions do you have for INEC?
Honestly, I think that INEC needs to do better. This is 2025. Things have evolved. INEC should also evolve. There are a lot of gray areas, and still there are operations, election management processes, a lot of gray areas. Yesterday, after the elections in my polling unit 16, Ward 80, but enough, we had to wait for several minutes. It took a while for the results to be uploaded to the IREV. We have to ensure that that is done before they leave the polling units. So it's a lot of process. There were not just stress yesterday. For me, I was late for more than 30 minutes before I could even cast my votes, because actually the machine captures my face, but after it couldn't just verify. My face is captured, but it just couldn't verify it. And a lot of persons are issues like that. And we cannot actually disenfranchise anybody. The whole idea of BVAS was to actually encourage better participation and to make the process more credible. So if what we're supposed to make a process credible is not disenfranchising them, they will ask critical questions. So I think that INEC needs to do better. The ICT team needs to look into how they can be more efficient and effective. The Weavers is no doubt a very beautiful innovation, but of course, like every other institution, they need to look at how to make it better. And also, elections most times between 8 and 2 p.m. That's about 6 or 7 hours marked for elections. So you cannot be using 2 or 3 minutes on a voter. It's a lot of time that you're wasting. A lot. There must be a faster way to do verification or accreditation. There must be a better way to accredit voters, and they can just go and vote immediately. In my unit, we have a lot of voters, over 1,000 voters, and usually, because it's a politically conscious community, usually people come out in their numbers to vote. A lot come out to vote. So imagine that INEC voters to daily people for 7, 5 minutes. You're going to lose a lot of time, and we're will not be able to ensure that a lot of persons get a vote before the time goes. And that's a lot of issue. But INEC really needs to do better in that particular area. Maybe they need to come up with something that make us more effective. Maybe they need to introduce artificial intelligence, just something to make the process faster and not take time, the waste people's time.
All right, I must say thank you so much. Pretty much this is where we'll wrap up the curtains on this update. If there's more update, we definitely will bring it to our viewers. If not on the show, it will be definitely on the news at 12. But thank you, Michael Ogunshina. He is the publicity secretary as well as leader of the youth for the PDP in Oyo State. Also here with us in the studio has been Victor Mbadike, our correspondent who covered Ibadan North for the by-elections yesterday, as well as our correspondent from Edo, and that's Amenze Bazuaye, who gave us more updates all through the day from yesterday during the by-elections, and also joined us today to give us more updates as the elections results are now trickling in. Pretty much all we can take on this hour. Let's close the curtains here. When we come back after the break, we start off the second hour properly, this time with our big story. Stay with us.
Well, all happy days, it's time for the strips here for Breakfast Extra. And we're going to be doing something like a tag team. Yes, Judith? Because you're going to be doing the papers, the dailies, the front pages while I do the strips. But I'm going to get started first, if you don't mind. I know they say ladies first, but I've got very interesting stuff that I think I need your input on as well. Let's start with our very first strip for today, and then I'll let you go with one of the dailies, okay? But our first strip for today, very interesting. Okay, all through last week, you talked about this inside of your monologue yesterday. Now, this is our reputation when it comes to aviation. It's funny how we did not know this. It's funny how it took one prominent Nigerian and another unruly one to bring all of this to light, whether it's the service industry, whether it's our conduct at airports, the fact that we're oblivious to the fact that there are certain conducts or rules and regulations when you are flying. We never knew. But I guess maybe we should thank these people. I guess maybe we should reward them with ambassadorships or trips abroad, because they have educated Nigerians on the need to know what you must know when it comes to flying in Nigeria and space or outside Nigeria. Do you agree now, Judith?
Who are the people you're referring to?
Kwamon and Ms. Emerson.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, at the end of the day, maybe they are really ambassadors. Maybe they brought a systemic problem to light.
Let's not do this to that young lady again.
I'm being...
I know, I know. Look, see, you know me. Look, women, again, okay, soft spot, champion, defender of the universe, defender of, the Amazons. But Mizuno, you know what? I don't want to get into Matthew's problem, but I would say this, right? We should also be looking at the flight attendants and aviation officers as well.
Service.
I have never been in anytime I'm at the airport and I have a problem, they never solve it for me.
Nah, I know.
They don't fix it. So,
well,
you know what I mean? Like
in Nigeria, the pays to look good. That's all.
I was going for my younger sister's wedding. This was far back in 2021, right?
Okay.
I was on the queue waiting. And the thing is, it was December. I was flying to Enugu. My car was waiting on standby so I could get to Ebonyi before, again, I'm from the north in Cross River. So I'm heading to Obudu. That means I'm flying to Enugu. I come down to Enugu. There's a car waiting for me to take me to Abakaliki. There's another driver on standby taking me from Abakaliki to my father's compound, you know, where the wedding is happening the following day. And I just left office the night before. Get to the airport. The whole waiting area, everyone waiting to check in, it's scattered. It's a pandemonium. It's chaos because it's December. Kids flying back home from holiday, people coming in. The whole place is a mess. I'm standing there. I didn't know they made announcements for those who need to go to Enugu, they need to check in. Come to find out, this man announces, gate for Enugu closed. What do you mean? I've been here this whole time.
So I'll tell you something. It's
do
not
you know
just...
how to book another flight?
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry about that.
And guess what? Guess what? It was first class.
Well, congratulations. Oh, what you missed or what you booked?
What I had, the flight I missed, which I was standing there the entire time for 40 minutes.
I can't help but recognize
was a first class ticket.
I can't help but recognize that note of affluence. But it's okay. Your first class, is it your first class? It's okay.
No, what I'm saying, no. What I'm saying is that means I had priority.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And I would assume in fast track, and I had only a hand luggage. So there's not really much that's happening. They could just check me in, give me my boarding pass. I had priority, right?
All right, Judith.
But you don't do all of that. That's
Let's
what I'm
see
saying.
a daily. What do you have there for the dailies, the front pages? Anyway. I know, sorry.
Yeah, so again, it's not on the passengers, it's on the aviation people.
Again.
The Nation newspaper, there we go. Starting with at the very top of the screen there, Tinubu approves 16.7 billion naira for urgent reconstruction of Mokwa Bridge, I beg your pardon. You can find that story on page 6. Right next to it, the federal government threatens persecution of a pastor for flogging unclad children in church. That story is on page 2. At the bottom there, Okpaolo, Soludo, Ubasani and Abiodun show strength in by-elections. ADC, PDP trailing badly in Kaduna, Edo, Ogun, Anambra, others. Police, DSS arrest PDP agent with 30 million naira cash in Kaduna. INEC officials, others nabbed in Ogun. ADC agents caught with ballot paper ballots in Anambra. Booklets, I beg your pardon, in Anambra. APC wins in Kogi. PDP in as well as Uyo. If you missed earlier on, we also did have live updates with our correspondents who covered the election in Edo and Ibadan as well. At the bottom there, First Lady empowers 500 women in Bauchi. That story is on page 6. Man protesting wife's departure cuts off own manhood. That story is on page 2 as well.
He cut off his own?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. I love that. I need more men performing masculinity for the sake of women. You know what I mean?
In Japanese culture, it would be seppuku, but it's a sword going inside of your innards and coming out the other side. But let's not talk about that.
Do it for
you would love this.
Yeah, do it for the women you love.
I'll tell you something that I found interesting is the unclad children being flogged at a church. It raised a lot of eyebrows across social media. And the funny thing about that story is that the parents of those kids actually came to the police station or wherever it was that they were taken to, saying how they had given their authorization for their children to be treated. So now the thing is, that's just a crazy, I can't, error. If you get me, why would you give your kids to be treated so, tossed around like rags and flogged with weeds? I think everybody should have been arrested so they know exactly what child abuse means, especially in that instance.
Oh, yes. NSA announces capture. Going on? Okay. Yeah, just very quickly, NSA announces capture of 2 globally wanted terrorists, and that's Abu Barea Mala Mahmouda, I beg your pardon, linked to kidnappings. You can find that story on page 2. And lastly, at the bottom there for the Nation for this Sunday, police arrest 29-year-old for allegedly faking on kidnap. That story is on page 2. At 29, Agbaya.
Oh, people do it even in older ages. Judith, interesting little strip here for the strips for today. Now, Business Day, always very grand when it comes to their art. Let's take a look at this and analyze it a bit. Do you recognize that very iconic hat for the person who's facing backwards? The former president is set to hold the umbrella again. Of course, you know what the umbrella is. That's PDP. You've got these people who are very interestingly well attired, representing some of the cultures in Nigeria. Mostly, however, it would seem the North. I'm wondering whether there's a special, notes to be taken there. But only just last week, we did get one of the Northern authorities, icons in politics, telling that in the PDP, and this is how I like to put it, how I think he meant it. So in the PDP, all we have left is Jonathan. I don't know whether you agree.
Yeah, the only strong candidate that they have that can pull...
Not the only strong. All they have left, it would seem.
And there's also Oyo State's governor, Bukola Saraki.
Yeah, well...
There's also the former House of Rep, yes, House of Rep, the Speaker of the House of Rep. What's his name? That's Bukola Saraki. I was talking, They have that. They also have the Oyo State governor. His name is just at the tip of my tongue. Forgive me, but they
who
also
would you
have...
place your money on if you were to be given? Well, I'm not saying that you're going to vote for the PDP come 2027. But would it be if you were to take a general consensus and say, what's the one name that you would rather vote for from the PDP if he was placed alongside?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I'm a journalist.
No, but I'm saying if you took a survey generally, what do you think you'll come up with? Do you think that the majority of the population or the pool that you take from would actually point in the direction of Jonathan?
Yes.
Do you think?
They will, but he would lose again. He will lose again. So, good morning, sir. If you're watching, please don't take it.
No, first of all, I didn't ask you for who's going to or who's not. I'm just saying whether you think.
I told you not to ask me anything.
It's honest. Let's do a strip before we come back.
Wait, hang on. Is that what you people is unfair? Because that's Peter Obi. That's Atiku Abubakar.
So that's Obi.
Yeah, that's Regbeshola. But the person...
Igbo representative, that is Rufai.
Don't do that, hey.
Yeah, but it's true. It's a fact. I'm interpreting. It's my job. Who else would these be? I haven't put names to them. But maybe I'll just leave you to do that, Judith.
It's okay. I'm not saying both
Let's do another strip. Let's do another quick strip. So before you come for your paper, yeah? Let's see what we have. All right, good. This is a very good one. So only just recently, the UN and other observers declared that what Israel was doing in Gaza was actually genocide. They didn't mince words. They said it's genocide. Only just recently, Nigeria, however, have gone into a tech partnership with Israel. And this strip here is very, very, it's just like, after getting that information, you know what it's saying. Nigeria-Israel pledges stronger collaboration on security, tech. Now, we will teach you how to commit genocide and get away with it. The key word there is get away with it. With everything that they have been, they've been accused of, they seem to still be getting away from it. But however, who exactly is, well, how will I put it, labeling Nigeria? Hang on a second. Yeah, by the way, that's Tinubu there. And this is what I want you to note. His
blood-stained hands.
Yeah.
Netanyahu's blood-stained hands.
Now, Nigeria has also come under some flack for the way they've treated certain instances in the past, like NSAS and bad governance, protest and dissent and all. Now, the note here is we're going to teach you how to do it better. And we're going to show you how to get away with it. So learn from the masters. So not only are they offering us tech or security, they're also offering us a reputation of repression. Let's put it that way. What do you think? Says it all?
No, I don't want to talk about the business that the president has with, or the country is about to get into with, or the exchange of, I don't know what that is. I mean, I don't want to get into it. But I would say that for diplomacy's sake, at a time like these, I wonder what is informing this alignment.
Are you saying watch your bedfellows?
Exactly. I don't know what's informing this alignment, because at a time like this where the UK, France and other European countries are calling Netanyahu and saying that if you do not do what you're supposed to do and seize fire completely during the UN meeting that's coming up in September, we're going to name Palestine as a state. That is a huge stand. But ahead of this, and call it what it is, but ahead of this, just months away, you're getting into bed with...
But Judith, do you remember what Nelson Mandela once said? He says, nobody ever told you, your enemy does not have to be my enemy. Africa at a point now where it has to take advantage all it can.
As you know.
And the fact is, at this point, if Nigeria needs tech, if it needs security, it's going to take it anyhow it gets. That's the way I see it. It's not going to get embroiled in all the issues that these countries are going through.
All the issues.
Devil's advocate here.
Hey, okay.
Devil's advocate. Just note. Yeah, because we do need these aids. We do need these helps. We do need these weapons. We also are going into alliance.
Israel is not the only country in the world, though.
You can. I see what you're saying, and I understand that, but then Nigeria must proceed.
Remember that just let's keep going. All right, very quickly.
Okay. Do us a daily, please.
Yeah, Sunday Independence, very quickly. As we pull it up on the screen, I'm trying to find. There we go. At the very top, there. Stay off presidential race. Nigerians advise Jonathan. Says a former president shouldn't taint his good record. Insists politicians are prodding him for personal interests. You can find that story on pages 3 and 4 of the Sunday Independent. Drug tests in schools under the lens as narcotics war spreads. That story there is the big one. You can see the DG of the NDLEA, and that's General Buba Marwa. There's pictures up there. Find that story on page 2 of the Sunday Independent. At the bottom there, the endless trial of Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, the former NSA, that's the former National Security Advisor. That story there is on page 5. And at the bottom, for the EFCC, anxiety mounts over EFCC's arrest of opposition figures. Anti-craft body involved in selective arrest persecution. That story, that comment there is from Barrister Ihe Onu. It fuses cologne of political expenditure. You can find that one. That statement there is from O. Akiyemi. That story there is on page 4 of the Sunday Independent. Interesting
there. I think that's all for the strips here, and I'm wondering if that's all you have for the papers.
Yeah, pretty much all of it. The most important ones, I will say.
Yes, indeed, and here too as well. But thank you very much for joining us for the strips and, of course, the dailies. We've got more conversation coming up inside of Breakfast Extra. Do stay tuned. I'll join Judith back again. Welcome back again. Now, it's a story that has gripped national attention and sparked a heated debate about air travel, passenger conduct, and fundamental human rights. On an Ibom Air flight, passenger Comfort Emmanson was accused of unruly behavior, an incident that escalated into her arrest, public shaming, and a threat of legal action. Now, the airline claims she was disruptive. Comfort, on the other hand, says that she was provoked, humiliated, and had her dignity violated. Nigerian Bar Association stepped in. They called Ibom Air's statement of Comfort reckless and a violation of her constitutional rights to dignity.
And the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, has since ordered airlines and regulators to withdraw certain cases against passengers, including this one. But questions remain. Was this truly a case of air rage, or was it an abuse of power at 35,000 feet? This morning, we're joined by Towo Osero-Woja, who is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Towo, it's good to have you back on the program this morning. You have seen the statements from Ibom Air. You've now seen the viral accounts of eyewitnesses who happen to have been passengers on the plane. And also you have seen the NBA's position. So from a legal standpoint, what do you think this case stands for? What do you make of all that's happening and how this all played out in the public space throughout the week?
Good morning, Judith and Mazino. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, I think there's another stakeholder we didn't mention, which is the airline operators of Nigeria. I've also read their statement and their actions therein. If you look at it from all aspects of human endeavor or in a civilized or developed society, what happened during that, the incident that occurred and the step taken by relevant authorities, including the police, including the airline operators, including the Ibom Air, is uncalled for, unprofessionalized, and at the same time, lack of empathy, if I may put it that way, and improper way of managing crisis. If you've heard the witness account of people who were on board, you agree with me that the airline would have done better And I won't speak from a biased point, because some of us who've been victims of improper management of airlines and their excesses, which has gone unquestioned. The first area we should look at is the issue of, because if you look at one of the defense or the public perception was the fact that the Comfort lost her temper or became aggressive when she was restricted of coming out of the airline. Well, I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, let me put it like, if somebody comes to your station and decide to disrupt or decide to do things that is questionable in law, the law provides that citizen can make arrest under Section 18 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Citizen can make arrest within a stipulated time. So if that happened, or from the account of Ibom Air, yes, they are right to restrict her movement for the purpose of an alleged offense they believe she has committed on board. That is correct. Then the other issue on the side of Comfort, if that issue has been resolved and it was established that the reason why she was restricted at that particular point in time is illegal or is not known to law, then there is also a provision of the law that would warrant Comfort to seek redress, which she can come under false imprisonment under tort. So there is no need for somebody to become aggressive on that part of it. So that is that. Then the involvement of the Minister of Aviation, good and fine. I commend him for the switch intervention. But another thing again is that we should understand the level and the capacity of each ministerial office. When it comes to issue of prosecution, remember the matter has already gone to court. It is not within the power of the Minister of Aviation to order for such cases to be withdrawn. As a matter of fact, that is where he has the counterpart minister who will step into the issue, which is the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. He has the constitutional power to make such law. If she was brought under the act, or the act, which means the laws control under the federal government, but if it's under the state, we'll now look at the Attorney General of the state, which is a counterpart ministry under that. Then you look at the other area of the NBA. I commend the NBA for what the NBA did. It is really a drastic step, and I really commend them for that, for what the NBA did. Then we look at the inhuman treatment. To some extent, if you could see the video you have been playing now, she threw the first punch, yes. But another thing again is that there's what we call professionalism in the security apparatus. What would have been done differently? Because if you look at the video, at that particular point in time, she has already been subdued. So to what extent was her clothes being torn and such things made public? That is contrary to Section 34. Subsection 1, paragraph A of the Constitution, which she can seek redress, because everybody, irrespective of the offense you've committed, you have the right to be treated with dignity of human person. Yes.
I don't want you to go too far. I want to go back on something that you said when it comes to I think citizens' arrest. Yes, you spoke about citizens' arrest.
Yes.
Now, I read a little bit about citizens' arrest and also mode of extraction, especially when it has to do with members of the public who are being unruly. And one word kept coming up, and the word was restraint. Now, the air hostess, they claim, restrained Ms. Emmanson by stepping in front of her at the door, not letting her go out. However, the restraint that I read about was an apparatus where an unruly person is actually put in cuffs or some sort of, maybe in some cases even straitjacketed before they are extracted. Now, where does the law come in here regarding the use of restraint by these, unquote, professionals who extracted Ms. Emmanson? And could what the air hostess did be considered restraint by stopping her from stepping out of the plane?
Okay, this is objective regarding this particular question. It's very objective. Now, it must be the force is commensurate. The question is the force used is commensurate. A good example, you cannot restrain someone who is in the course of you saying, okay, can I, like a police officer approaching a suspect now with a gun. You don't expect that police officer to go there with an handcuff. That is one. Do you understand? You could see the video on the screen now. You could see there was no altercation, but this is a professional way of saying, okay, well, at this particular point in time, we are restraining you from not taking further step because of we believe you've committed an offense. There is no verbal condition. Then if you now look at the further video, you discover that between this point and the point she was in the bus, what led to that confrontation? That is where evidence that will be led. Well, okay, you could see the officers now. What led to the security personnel? What led to the confrontation of her throwing her legs, then the other one resorting to punch? But another thing again, we should also look at. You discover that because it is mute, we don't know the extent of words being made because some people are somehow sensitive to the kind of verbal abuse. Some people may not be able to take the verbal abuse that would have come out for her to have warranted that leg kick she has done. Then another thing again is that you could see the restraint taken by the security agent. Now, for me, at that point in time, she has already been subdued. Looking at that video we just displayed now. So to what extent now the aggression I took to the point of clothes being torn or being dragged on the floor is what we need, or what the aviation industry or the authorities, regulatory authorities, need to look at and see the possible way of training our air staff and other stakeholders in the air industry on how to address issues of that nature. So for purpose of restraint, it is commensurate. It must be commensurate. What is the reasonable man standard as to the force you use or the manner of approach?
Let's also talk about the video that was filmed of her and how it was shared and distributed on social media and gone viral. How will this play? Because I know that in that statement by the NBA, they also made mention of the now viral video, the decimation of that video, of how it had gone viral on social media. How will this play out in court and with this case?
Well, if you look at Comfort, and I believe the step she's been taking, the step she's currently taking is the right step, and I believe I align myself totally with the position of the Nigerian Bar Association, and I also want to commend the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Honorable Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I think the people who are the custodian of that data, I will call it data leak, they need to be punished, because that is breach of confidentiality, that is breach of privacy, that is the highest level you can ever think of downgrading the human person, which the provision of the Constitution is protecting. So for them to have released is to, I think, to the extent of their myopic view, is to shame her, to shame Comfort, or to make her to make her look very bad in the eyes of the public. But from all sense of this thing, she has cause for action for such a video to be released, and that is a clear evidence. If proper channels and proper foundation is laid for the admissibility of that document, for that video clip, is a clear evidence where the court can look at and see that a right to human person has been violated.
All right, Barrister,
and a right to privacy.
I beg your pardon. We're gonna hold you on to that. We're gonna come back with a question on that. But let's take a very short break now. When we come back, we'll continue on her rights in this here story. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra here, and we are on the topic from last week of the, in quote, unruly passenger, the Ibom Air instance, and we have Barrister Toh, who's been with us discussing this. We have more questions for you, Barrister Toh. Thank you very much for sticking around. We were talking about Ms. Emerson's rights. Now, her rights don't just stop where the airline seems to have infringed upon it, but also that it's gone on to social media now. So it's no longer just about the fact that a staff of the airline could have shared that video. It's that people continue to share this video. So what does the law say about sharing these kinds of videos for individuals who have, well, nothing to do with the instance itself, but perhaps are continuing to share this video? What recourse does she have, if any, when it comes to the population having these material on their phones?
Well, that is another loopholes in our law. You agree with me on that area, because I think that is one of the area I did when it talks about freedom of expression when I was doing my undergraduate in the University of Jos. that is the area I did my research on. Is one of the loopholes that the social media or regulation of the social media has created. But let's look at it from the bigger picture. You discover that if not for that video that went viral, do you understand? The public outcry for our let me use the word, for our incarceration wouldn't have been heard, because it was as a result of that video that people's sympathy was drawn for her to be released. As a matter of fact, in less than 24 hours, you could see a non-state actor, I must be specific, a non-state actor, which is the airline operation of Nigeria, has issued a ban, a light ban for that matter. So if not for the video brought about a return of the situation in a different directive. And you can also look at the role of the magistrates, where he adjourned the matter till October. So those are areas you should look at, the importance of the spread of that video. Then if you look at the disadvantage of that spread, I think a claim should be on the publisher who published the video at that particular point in time. Because another thing again is that when people share, it's not the first time, because there is a World Wide Web. It mainly goes on web. Obviously, the publication has already been done. The damages, irrespective of who shared it or not. But at that point of publication, so what will now come is when the court has made a directive or an order that henceforth nobody should share such a video. That is where the law comes to play in our cause. But for as it is now, well, it is the foundation we should be looking at. Who are the first point of contact that shares that video? That is where the issue should come, not at this particular point in time who is sharing or who is resharing. Right. It's more of some people will take it as an entertainment, which you can't take it from them. Well, some people will look at it, laugh over the issue, while some people will be sober and reflective over the issue. Then it comes to a liability at the point when the court make a pronouncement that henceforth that the video should be brought down and nobody should reshare. That is where individuals can be held liable. Yeah, as it is now, is a free-for-all, and there is no way she can hold anybody liable for, apart from the Ibom Air or the people who are there at that particular point in time. But I think the main focus point will be Ibom Air, that will be held liable for a link of that video, because there's all called vicarious liability. They bear the responsibility of their staff. They'll be held liable for the excesses of their staff.
Let me come in here, right, and talk about, we've talked about this from the legal point of view. So I want to step away from legal. You're also a public affairs analyst, and by law, it means that you have also studied human behavior and nature. That's the only way one can come up with laws like this, or the only way for you to practice laws, right? And so what does this video and this ordeal reveal about our society, about our people, and about the nation? From your own standpoint, you're a well-educated, well-traveled man, have the opportunity to work both in Nigeria and away from Nigeria. And so you have seen both sides, right? So I think that you can give a very fair, analysis of what we see today that's playing out in front of us.
Well, Judith, I must confess that what Comfort did in Lagos, here in the UK and other developed countries, you see people who act more difficult than what she has done, what she has alleged to have done. But I believe that the way and manner the authorities handle the issue is quite different from what the Nigerian did. I could tell you the stakeholders involved. I'll give you a good example of what would have done differently. I think there was a time me and my family were traveling to Scotland we're traveling from England to Scotland for a short vacation, and we could see a lot of scenes created. But I promise you that the way all the stakeholders handle the situation is more of the tension was even just at the beginning of the world go. Now you look at the role of the staff of Ibom Air. I think the first point of call was that woman who restricted her. Do you understand? I could really commend her maturity and the way she handled the situation, because I could believe that she even backed her and paid deaf ear to whatever altercation or whatever statement that would have been made. Do you understand? Then you now go back to outside that scene, what happened next? What would have done better? would there be a line manager or a supervisor who would have taken over the situation from the word go? The question is, he would have... Come again?
Slow you down there, because the woman whom you are praising right now also was the same and very same provocateur. So the story
wait, I'm talking about character-wise now.
Okay.
I'm speaking based on what is displayed on the screen, and I'm speaking based on accounts I've heard thus far. That woman that restricted her, if you listen to several accounts, she was not the one that provoked her. She gave instructions, she left, and her colleague went further and talked down on the lady. Those are accounts we've had. Then you saw the police now. The police made the situation more worse and difficult. And I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, we operate a police system whereby the first person to report is the victim without investigation. They just rushed. And
I need you to say that for those at the back. The first person to report is always the victim with the police. I don't understand it, but please continue. Forgive me for butting in.
Yeah, so the first person to report is always the victim. So the police, I was wondering, with the characters of people there, I just can't imagine the extent or the time the police use in looking at the statement of each of the individuals, particularly those on green reflective jacket, to have truncated the charge of taking her to court immediately. Then the other area is the magistrate. That is where our judiciary needs to sit up. The magistrate has a lot of powers to have looked into a charge or an information in this regard now in Lagos State to see whether there is an element to have warranted him or her to have proceeded with that case. As a matter of fact, there is nothing wrong. I've read all the counts. There's nothing wrong for the magistrate to have granted a bail at first instance, or adjourn the matter for the next day for further inquiry into the first information. But you could see that it took the intervention of a politician, which I will give you the Minister of Aviation, to have called the police to withdraw such a charge. And for me, like I told, when we were making commentary on this issue in one of my peer group, we were making statement that we want to really see the reason, because the police does not have automatic right to have gone to withdraw a charge or an information before a magistrate. They must provide a cogent reason, unlike the Office of the Attorney General that owes nobody explanation. Do you understand? We want to see the reason for the magistrate now who has adjourned a matter to October of this issue to October for him to have said, okay, they've withdrawn such a charge. So if you see all stakeholders in this regard, they mismanage the situation. Right. She, as a person, she's an individual. We are talking about a whole several institutions who would have managed the individual, did not do it properly. So I think we need to overhaul our institution, and we need to take away that grip of oppressive control from the mindset of power holders.
Barrister, while we're talking about the magistrate, let's look at a crime and also the intersection between this instance and a previous instance from before, where the subject has certain affiliations, and of course the reason why it wasn't attended to with as much furor as this one has been is because of that affiliation. Now, in a sane crime, how would either of these instances have played out, considering the infringements by the passenger, the airline operator, and in the previous case, the airline pilot and the celebrity that was involved, and I'm referring to the Kwam 1 case.
Thank you. Took you long enough.
Please, we should not also forget there's also a character that was not mentioned, a serving Senator Adams Oshomole.
Yes, and then there's that, yes.
Home was swept under the carpet.
Yeah, sure.
So let's no, I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
So
I'm here.
In
definitely.
a normal climb, how would either of these cases have been handled?
I think as a public analyst, it will be unfair for me to compare issues. I will discuss it as it is, but if you look at it from all categories, is that they all has to do with behaviors. They all have to do with a crisis. So I believe that they would have been managed separately and individually. But another thing again is that when you're managing issues separately and individually, it should be commensurate to the actions taken by individuals. A good example of our distinguished senator, who is a comrade, I respect him because I'm also a comrade. Do you understand? You could see that it was taken in a pinch of salt. As a matter of fact, there were apologies tendered, not even from him, but to him. Do you understand? So, but irrespective of your right violation, there's a capacity there's a level of capacity you need to exhibit when conflict are within your terrain, and that he lacked in that regard. Then, if you say the musician or that one who stood in front of an airline endangering about how many people on board, I think that one was. I think he was even made an ambassador. We want to commend the society where they reward bad behavior, basically. So where good behaviors are seen as being docile, where bad behavior are seen as being rewarded. Therefore, comfort, for issue of comfort, well, the issue of comfort is that just like what a friend of mine in India, because we discuss issues, I belong to a peer group where we compare activities that happen in our country. An India friend of mine said it's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria. And I won't want to agree with him, because I told him that the difference between India and Nigeria is the fact that they are more populated than we do, but character-wise, we have some cynical behaviors. So, but I will align myself with him to some extent that comfort's own is as a result of who she is and her status in the society. I believe it would have been different. It would have been different if it were to be someone like our distinguished senator or a musician. Then I must, as a matter of fact,
or a daughter of a celebrity or a senator, or a daughter of a celebrity or a senator or an influential figure that is connected to power.
Different strokes for different.
That's why they said it's more expensive. It's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria now.
Very true.
It's more expensive to be poor in Nigeria.
Thank you for saying that. And I want to refer to Judith here. Judith, there's something that somebody also noted.
Right.
Now, for instance, my wife had never heard of Ibom Air. And only since this catastrophe did she know that they existed. They only just came on board like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So, of course, that would be expected. Now, with the level of what's the word, exposure that Ms. Emmanson has given Ibom Air, don't you think that she is deserved of some sort of compensation for that?
Well,
I don't know.
No, and that's why the case is available, right? Because I feel like the case will definitely ensure.
Well, let's look at it from the public public relation aspect of it. The question is, we have good publicity and we have bad publicity. For me, as a matter of fact, if I want to fly, there's some airline within me, and I've told my family that no matter the situation, I will fly with such an airline. And I think with the way and manner it is now, publicity, yes, but what good is their publicity? If it's a sane society, I'll tell you, Ibom Air would have come out publicly to apologize to the public. But it's not a sane society. We are in a sane society.
I wish there's enough time, because I was going to ask about what this reveals about the soft white underbelly, about how this is now being played. People are using porn on, using words, wordplay when it comes to, a mammary gland. Forgive me, I didn't want to say the words. And for example, people who have now used, AI to create all kinds of things is now circulating, is now an inside joke. Somebody's mental health and trauma is on the line. There's something.
Now, that is, in that regard, now, that means there's been an alteration to the narrative. She can sue that individual for that. He can sue the originator of that idea, the publisher of that idea, because there's been an alteration from the original publication. So that person can be held liable to that. But you see in Nigeria, like somebody will say that we cruise a lot over issues. We cruise a lot over issues. And I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, the aviation industry of every country, the aviation industry, the police and the judiciary is the landmark of every country to see if it's a fair and just society.
On that note, how is Nigeria viewed internationally now, with these instances bringing to the fore the lapses we have in our aviation service sector?
Yeah, well, Nigeria is viewed as one of the best countries because we have one of the best brain. It all depends on how best you want to market your country. But surprisingly, you discover that it's even we, the Nigerians, who in one way or the other are privileged to now be demarketing the country. But just like I told you, most times I have mockery for some of my friends. I have a friend from South Africa who view my status often. I have a friend from India, and we mock over our issues. But the bottom line of it is that we have good people, we have good things happening in Nigeria that outweighs the bad thing. It's just about the publicity and how we market some of these things that are sellable in the international community.
And one of the good things is roasted corn and pear, even though now it's expensive. And then there's also mango as well.
I miss that one.
Yeah,
I miss that
good
one.
things.
Come back home. Thank you very much. And
I'm still making consultation. I'm on self-sabbatical. I'll be back.
We can see
I
that
can't wait to have you back.
You're going for some frequent flyer miles there. But thank you very much, Rasta. Always a pleasure to have you here with us discussing matters.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Now, let's take a very short break, and when we come back, we've got some more conversation coming away inside of Breakfast Extra.
You're welcome for our final segment for this morning. It's about Nigeria's transport sector. It's increasingly being burdened by a dangerous cocktail of rising fuel costs and persistent road accidents, particularly those involving heavy-duty trucks. With fuel prices surging and transporters often prioritize cost-cutting over safety, pressuring drivers to maximize their trips and cut downtime. At the same time, frequent tragic incidents like the one in Edo State where Phyna's sister, Ruth Otabor, was grievously injured after being run over by a Dangote truck underscore a glaring gap, especially gaps in road safety, training of drivers, and systemic safeguards. The Auchi accident, which led to the amputation of Ruth's leg, has sparked national outrage and raised urgent questions about road safety protocols and company accountability. Dangote Group responded with a pledge of full support, including medical care and compensation, highlighting the human cost when safety systems fail. Meanwhile, discussions on small transport systems are gaining momentum across the country, viewed as vital for enhancing oversight, training, and vehicle tracking to prevent future tragedies amid economic stress.
So in essence, the confluence of inflation-driven operational pressures, inadequate driver vetting, and systemic safety lapses not only fuels frequent truck-related mishaps, but also makes them more devastating when they occur. The recent Tochukwu Otabor incident in Auchi has laid this vulnerability bare and intensified calls for smarter tech. So here to help us unravel the root causes and also viable intervention is Dr. Ahmed Oyeyemi, transportation engineer, consultant, and at the Maryland Department of Transportation. And well, you're welcome, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning. So let's first of all start what you think here. What do you think are the leading factors behind heavy-duty truck accidents here in Nigeria? Is it driver fatigue or maybe inadequate vetting of these drivers themselves or even training?
So I would start off with saying that there are a lot of factors behind these heavy-duty truck accidents. Like you rightly said, there are the issues of driver fatigue. You know, these drivers, they drive long hours on the road without rest. And one thing is sure, in Nigeria, there are no real regulations, you know, that kinds of monitor that guides these drivers' fatigue on the road. Situation in America, right? You would have the FMCSA, that is they are regulated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Now, this agency, they regulate the number of hours these drivers get on the road. You can't drive all through without having any time to rest at all. You can't drive all through like 14 consecutive hours, you know, and then continue to drive. But that's the kind of situation we see with all these tanker drivers, with all these truck drivers. So there are no regulations. I would speak on that. I would also mention the fact that we have poor road infrastructure. It goes without saying, Nigeria's road, we have narrow shoulders, we have potholes, we have weak pavements. These factors basically amplify the severity of accidents. And then you have the case of vehicle overloading, and this is not enforced, you know, because you will see a vehicle that is supposed to be, you know, carrying like 40-ton product, maybe petroleum product, maybe food product, but they go on this road and then the axle is, you know, the weakness is amplified, and then this kind of you know, causes a lot of accidents. And then you have the case of the maintenance culture. I would like to hammer that on that pretty much. Maintenance culture for the fleet companies we have in Nigeria, it is alarming. You know, I personally have worked in a facility, in a depot, where these people come to load product, you know, to lift petroleum product. And when they do so, before they even get into the facility, there are certain checks that are supposed to be done. There are certain vettings that are supposed to be done. And all of these are not properly done. And what do you expect to have when you have situations like that? The answers are very clear. And, you know, I will just leave it at that for now, so we can go on. But of course, when you don't have certain things in place, you know what you're expecting.
You have mentioned very, very key points that you mentioned, contributing factors to what we're seeing. One of them is, you know, the maintenance. The other is the training, and of course the road maintenance, which also eats into it. But let's also go to the stakeholders themselves, the business owners. For in this case, the companies who own these fleets and who own these trucks. What role do they play in the maintenance in terms of the psychology and the welfare of the drivers, the licensing of their truck drivers, the training of their truck drivers, and, you know, enforcing and ensuring that the truck drivers adhere to safety guidelines and rules? What role do they play? Do they have a large amount of blame, and do they do this critically?
So I would say that they don't do all of this critically, right? Because if they do, if actually they do, there are certain guidelines that that they are meant to follow, right? For the trucking industry, you will find out that the kind of system that you have in Nigeria, you could be at the comfort of your home. I know it is not the case every time, but you will be in the comfort of your home and you would have your license being brought to you. Unlike in other Western countries, in other places where you would actually have to go through something called the CDL training, where you will obtain your CDL license, right? And now, this is what the companies are supposed to do, but they don't really do all of these things. So the drivers just, you know, basically they get to have like an easy route to getting on the road. They don't have this training where there's a trainer that observes these drivers that could have, you know, been on the road for, you know, testing them and making them, you know, go on certain different scenarios. Like I would say, typical example, like driving for 200 hours, 300 hours to train, to be sure that they can actually go on the road in different conditions, in foggy conditions, in rainy conditions, in nighttime. But what you have is certain scenarios, we've seen it where motor boys, those are called the assistant drivers, right, are allowed to drive vehicles even without licenses, right? So the fleet owners, these companies have to do better with allowing certain trainings to be done. And then there has to be periodic testing for all of these drivers, because a lot of these drivers, there's substance abuse, right? There are a lot of things that could happen. They can be distracted on the road. You know, they want to get to where they want to go to very quickly. And once you're trying to do all of this and you're not following all of the guidelines because there's nobody checking, then definitely you know what the results will be.
What about technology in all of this? What responsibility do the fleet owners have when it comes to monitoring these drivers using technology? You made one small mention in the beginning there, and I do remember that if not in the UK, then in the US, there are certain smart monitoring facilities or apparatus inside of cars, especially pool cars like I don't want to mention names, but you know, the car hailing services where they can monitor the drivers, how many hours they're doing each time they clock in. Do you think that fleet owners owe that responsibility to safety in Nigeria as their vehicles move across Nigeria to fit their vehicles with these kinds of safety features?
Absolutely. I would start with there's a system called GPS tracking and telematics, right? It's already in use, and it is like I would say for scalable real-time monitoring for real-life scenarios. Imagine if a driver gets sleepy and stops in an unsafe area, right? The manager can see these on the system, right, and call to advise, you know, to keep moving or to move to a safer place to rest. There's another one that I would mention. It's called onboard speed limiter, right? This enforces compliance with national speed caps. I would give an example. Say on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, speeding trucks are not one of the leading. Speeding trucks are one of the leading causes of crashes. With speed limiters, even the drivers presses the accelerator too much, you know, the truck won't even exceed that speed limit because there's a speed limiter there. And then this ultimately reduces deadly crashes caused by brake failures or tire bursts from overspeeding. And there's another point, real-time monitoring dashboard. That's the one you were kind of referring to. This detects erratic driving and overloading or prolonged hours. I would give an example. Say in a place like there's a fleet manager in Apapa, Lagos, right? And where he can monitor like over 50 trucks heading to Abuja. So if one truck shows any form of irregularity, say swerving, repeated braking, the system flashes a warning. And then the manager gets to call the driver immediately to correct the behavior, right? And then I personally, I'm working on, it's something called, related to intelligent transportation system, where there is the erratic behavior of a driver. Maybe a driver is driving for long hours, is feeling sleepy. There's a trigger from his seat, you know, is swerving. There's a lane departure warning system, and it's also triggers like a vibration effect on the driver. And then, you know, there's a warning, there's a digital warning on the screen that it needs to pull over to the next rest area. So if all of these are done, and then there's the last point where digital logbook. The US uses digital logging system right now. It's called electronic logging system. It automatically records driver's activity. You know, if all of these things are in place, definitely you would agree with me that the rate of accidents will reduce because there are proper monitoring, the proper integration of smart technologies in this. So yeah.
Right. Let me ask you, Ahmed, as we're talking about, you know, the drivers and measures that need to be implemented, how can the companies track substance abuse? Because the drivers here are notorious for using substances, either alcohol, either smoking on the wheel, eating at the wheel, or whenever they are, where they have their rest, their stop rest, oftentimes it's always on the road. If you go to Apapa, if you're heading towards Apapa on a busy day, or even the Oshodi Apapa Expressway, you see them littered, right? And you see sachets of, you know, of alcohol, as well as wrappers of marijuana, and they mix all kinds whenever they have to rest so they can sleep from the long hours that they drive. How can the companies track that as well?
I would let me first of all pick on the point where we talk about the rest position for these drivers. In Nigeria and in a lot of places in Lagos, we would see clearly that we don't have these facilities, right, for drivers to actually pull over and rest. And that's why you see all of them on the road, which causes congestions on its own, which has its own hazards on its own, right? However, if the government, right, could partner with subject matter experts, this can be done. It is very easy. We have narrow shoulders in Nigeria, narrow shoulders on our road, and then we cannot actually allow these truck drivers and the trucks to be on the shoulders of the road because it causes accidents. So back to the question where how we can track all of this. So if the companies can incorporate periodic testing for these drivers, right? I would touch on that a little bit more later, but let me say that there are devices like breathalyzers, right? When these drivers are driving, before they leave the facility, even before they get to where they are going, intermittent stop, and then they can be breathalyzed and checked if there's any content abuse, whether there's any alcohol use or whatever. But ultimately, if a driver would constantly need to be on the road, and there has to be periodic checks, right? America do this a lot. The United States do this a lot. And I've been part of a project with the Maryland Department of Transportation where we set up processes where drivers can I think it would be like every 2-3 months, they would come and check their blood system, take their blood samples and test for alcohol use, for drug use, for any substance use, and if drivers understand that periodically they are going to be tested, they are going to be breathalyzed, they are going to be checked, it would curb that, right? It would curb that. It would take somebody that wants to lose his job as a driver to continue to be on constant use of alcohol because he knows that in 3 months it cannot be clean. The substance will still be in the system when tested. So all of this is what I believe the firms, the fleet companies, the trucking companies can implement to reduce these rates to the barest minimum.
Right.
To keep our roads safe.
Okay, Ahmed, I'm sure you've seen the videos, you've seen the training video of the distraught, heartbroken sister, Phyna, over the accident of her sister, Ruth Otabor, which have now resulted in the amputation of her leg. We've also seen the statement from Dangote refinery, or rather Dangote companies, regarding this incident. And so I have to ask you, one of the most interesting things about that video was going under there and seeing people recount their own experience with the same company, with exactly the same. Either the person had died, had lost an arm, a leg. It's always the same thing, right? And we've also seen VDM, which is a very dark man, also weighing on the matter with his own video. Where does that lie? You've worked with FMCG companies who have fleets like this. So I'm going to ask you, what's the best way to handle emergencies in situations like this? Do they step in? Because it seems like companies are always aloof when it comes to matters of this.
Yeah, so in this instance, I would say that most of the time when all of these accidents happen, right, the companies don't want to really take responsibility, right? So it would involve the government, right, coming in, right? It would involve the government coming in to make sure that they take responsibilities for this because they own the truck, right? They employ the drivers. Whatever kind of trucks they're using, for a fact, a lot of the trucks that we use in Nigeria are very old trucks. So they require more maintenance and a whole lot more. And the kind of drivers that they use, most of them are not properly trained. They're just, assistant drivers that just automatically turn into drivers. So definitely, these companies have to own up and take responsibilities. But this will not happen except the government helps out as well. So this would involve law enforcement, the authority, to come together to make sure that these companies answer for this.
Ahmed, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us. It's been sublime having you. Technology is important, but the Nigerian situation also, begs to ask the question about how much technology needs to be adopted when you look at the education level of the drivers, especially the truck drivers. But that would definitely be a conversation for another day. Ahmed, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you. Let's go on a short break. We're still talking about fatigue, but this time is Nigeria's workplace as it continues to grapple with toxicity. After the break, stay with us. Oh, it's me? There we go. All right, you're welcome back. It's time for us. This is our last segment. Last time I thought it was going to be last, but this time it's the last indeed. Now, Nigeria's workforce is grappling with an escalating crisis of workplace stress and toxicity, especially in bustling urban centers like Lagos, which is the commercial center, as well as Abuja, was the capital, and Port Harcourt, the oil city. Now, across sectors, employees face relentless pressure from heavy workloads, insufficient mental health support, and blurred boundaries between work and personal life. The reality is that it's grim. There's burnout, anxiety, and psychological strain, and they are now becoming stressingly common, in environments where the lines between compassion and productivity are dangerously blurred. Now, reports show that pervasive issues like poor communication, fear-driven cultures, and office politics compound these challenges, leaving workers increasingly vulnerable to mental and physical health consequences. Moreover, toxic workplaces exact a heavy toll as well, not just on morale, but on overall well-being, whether it's from office bullying and ostracizing to harassment and systemic leadership failures. Employees in Nigeria often find themselves navigating cultures that erode their self-esteem and ignite chronic stress. Empirical studies underscore how such environments correlate with symptoms of depression, anxiety, physical ailment, and diminished productivity issues that we cannot afford to overlook.
I should have jumped in to help you there. So many big words, Judith, but thank you. But
did you know I'm 5 years old?
In essence, the modern Nigerian office is under siege. Not by external threat, but by internal dysfunction, unchecked work stress, and toxic dynamics that can derail careers and also harm lives. But to help us unpack these issues and offer practical pathways forward, we're joined today by Kris Ekuafeh. She's workplace stress expert up until only recently, I think 2 years ago, last year. I didn't know there was such a thing, but then we met from before now.
Yes,
so
we did.
yeah, I got educated. Welcome again. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Well,
It's great to be here on
Yes,
this set.
indeed. Yeah.
Looking beautiful on our set. I love that.
Trying to catch up.
I beg you, please put me on the
I would
spotlight.
like us to start by defining exactly what a dysfunctional or a toxic work environment is.
A toxic work environment is where people have no sense of safety. When something is toxic, there's no safety, especially psychological safety, where you do not feel comfortable enough sharing your pain or interacting with other people because there's always this umbrella or aura of distrust, of gossip, of malice, and conflict, where issues are not easily reconciled, especially in favor of the staff, where the organization sees the company as more important than the people. So oftentimes what we try to say is, and we see that the dynamics are changing, a bit slow, but they're beginning to change, where the people in the workplace, the employees, are now giving more attention because we realize that the more you give the employees, the more they are able to give back to the organization. Wow. So it's a win-win, though, when you focus more on the employees than just focus on the, the showmanship of running an organization.
So I guess it's safe to say that a good workplace will be a place where you wake up in the morning and say, yay, let's go to work, while a bad workplace will be a place where you work in the morning and, oh my God, I have to go back there. That's the way I define it.
Well, that could also be a bad workplace, but it could also be a function of the person. Maybe the person has issues and the person hasn't been able to resolve the issues.
Not a morning person.
Maybe not a morning person, or the person has got some form of internal stress, he's dealing with or she's dealing with.
So it's not just about the employer-staff relationship or dynamic, it's also an interpersonal one as well as it is an internal one as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
All right. The propaganda that I will not fall for is that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's a lie. Or it's a propaganda that was pushed. That's a propaganda I will not fall for. But it also, I think the HR worldwide have thought that the notion of good work is more work makes people overwhelmed, and so they have now said work-life balance. Right. Right? And I think they throw work-life balance as a plaster to solve those issues. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
you know,
it does
it's like
make sense.
it's a plaster, they solved it. Oh, she's trying, it's work-life balance. You know, I've come to complain. This person said, they're like, it's 10 past at hyper, working towards work-life balance, you know?
Right.
Work hours is 40 hours. It's give them 38 hours instead, you know, a week, you know? And so how then can we equip HR to fix it and not blur the lines and think work-life balance is the solution?
Okay. I'm glad that you brought up the issue of work-life balance, because that is also a topic of great discernment and great discussion within the HR populace and also within the stress mastery populace as well. And it's a mindset that we are trying to shift.
Right.
But before we get in there, because, I mean, there's going to be a point where I'm going to really have to talk about that, I want to address this issue of you know, when you have, because we're talking Monday blues, right? This is Sunday. You guys work here. So I just want to know how it is for you people so that I can answer that. Not Sunday, really. Let's start from when the weekend
What's
begins.
your typical week like?
The weekend starts on
Oh, yeah,
Friday.
what's a typical weekend
So
like?
how is Friday for you?
Friday is, I don't like sharing personal, so certain things on air, if you know, you know. But Friday is when
It's a tough one.
It's not tough. It's like I'm thinking of how much to share. So Friday for me is it's a typical day. It's like a Sunday for you. Does that make any sense? If your week starts on Monday, Sunday, that's Sunday for me.
Yeah.
Does that I think that makes sense. So you're running last minute errands, you're trying to grab things, you're making sure that everything that is supposed to be for Monday is ready, you know, whether it's breakfast, like your coffee is out, you know, and whether you know, meetings are supposed to have, hey, what's up? Are we having meetings 8 o'clock on Monday? Okay, all my guests are arranged, you know, I'm getting the scripts, getting the materials, I'm jacking and getting ready for the show. So I think so what Sunday should look like for a regular person who works Monday to Friday is what my Friday looks like for me.
Okay, so that means your your Saturday is a Monday for someone else.
Absolutely.
So
a Saturday
based
is a
on
Monday
what you just said, let's assume that we're talking Friday being Sunday, right? Work life and all that. You could say that comes a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension.
Anxiety and tension. Yes, anxiety, no.
Not really.
Yeah, because if I'm anxious, I would have called sick, but again, I can't call in sick. So I don't know what's going on. Even when I'm sick, I'm like antsy to get back to work. So I don't have anxiety over work. I just have tensions, and what I do is I just, you know, and that's it. I'm locked in.
And then you're good.
How about you? There are a
Yeah.
couple of anxieties that come with entering into a Monday, which for me is a Friday.
Right.
Yeah, and a Friday would be a Sunday night, I think. But yeah, but I get where you're going though. But where are we landing this now?
Does that affect how the workplace treats you or how you treat the workplace?
I think it affects how I treat the workplace.
How you treat the workplace.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, where
Because
we're
I have
going.
to come in with a certain mindset.
Right.
You know, it's either guns blazing or yeah, one of the two.
Okay, the reason I'm asking this is because we had to go on the streets, right? So we did this Vox Pop. So we hear from the people, the regular people, how Friday is for them.
Yeah.
I mean, we can play that now.
Well, let's take a look at that little package then.
Well, Friday is my favorite day of the week, and I sleep in on Fridays, basically. Once I don't have work today, I sleep in. I'm excited it's Friday. 3 days to rest before Monday. Yeah, basically. That's how I feel on Fridays.
Well, usually I just go home and rest from the stress of the week. You know, as a student, we go to classes from Mondays to Fridays. So usually I just anticipate my rest. That's all.
Friday is always giving this kind of new vibes, you know, to refresh about the whole week, you know, to just calm down. And, you know, everybody, the whole family will be around. My brother will get back from work and, you know, we'll just have that time to reconnect again. Regardless of what you've been through during the week or how even your day has been going on Friday, you just know that, okay, at the end of the week, you're going home to your family, to wherever you want to go meet at home. You know now, the vibe that comes with Friday. As an adult, we've planned out hangouts that would not work. So on Friday, we get to meet, maybe you go to your family house, you know,
Netflix and choose. I don't know, maybe party, it's Lagos.
I'm usually excited for Fridays and the weekend, especially because like there are a lot of events that happen and you just get to rest from the stress of the week. So yeah, Fridays are cool, Fridays are chill, and I'm always looking forward to the weekend once it's Friday.
That's interesting. So you played that video for us, and you went out on the streets for those Vogue Pops. So tell us, everyone's excited about Friday. They're all excited for taking a break from work. To me, it sounds a bunch of, let me not say the word, but let me leave it to you. What do you think?
You know, Friday traditionally marks the end of the working week, and we all know that work comes with its own kind of stress. So that's why, you know, the terminology, thank God it's Friday, became so popular, because everybody saw it as, this is the time for me to let down my hair, this is the time for me to get rid of all the backlog of work and face the weekend. Which is why it was important for us to actually come in so that we can get to understand the dichotomy and the discrimination between Friday and Sunday. Why are people so excited to get into the weekend, leave work on Friday, and have this sense of doom when Sunday comes? For you, as you said, you know, just before we went on break, you kind of like hinted that your Friday is like everybody else's Sunday. So you can imagine how it is that the workplace now is become so untraditional. There's now hybrid workplaces, and you know, where everybody is working online. So not everybody goes to a traditional workplace. Some people get to work from home. So just as you emphasize, not everybody has Friday as Friday. Some people work Friday to Friday, back to back, you know. But then right now, it's important that we also look at Monday. We look at the switch from Sunday to Monday. Are you ready for that?
Go ahead.
Okay, good. So we went on the streets again, and this is what people have to say.
All right.
Sunday is my favorite day of the week. I beg your pardon. It's a day that I get to be around community, around church. Community is very important to me. I go to church on Sundays. I experience community, the bond. I get to see people I've not seen over the entire week. And in as much as Monday is the next day, it's really heartwarming that, oh, I get to spend time in the presence of the Lord. And I get to see people I really love, and that we share the same faith. And I'm encouraged in Christ, and I'm encouraged like for the next week to get it through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like that. So yeah, I really like Sundays. I like it a lot.
Sunday is a happy day for me. I mean, it's my favorite day of the week, actually, because, yeah, to some persons, they feel, oh, it's the beginning of the new week. But for me, I mean, when you go to church, you come back, you're thinking about the next rice and stew you are eating on Sunday. I mean, it's a time for relaxation for me. I really like Sunday. The people, you get to go out. Fridays, even though they say some persons might prefer Friday, you still think about Saturday, having to have some things you have to do. But Sunday, for me, you have to relax. It's more like a relaxation day for me.
Sundays are usually chill as well. You know, you still get to like recharge for the week ahead. It's just that I'm sad that the weekend has already come to an end and then the new week is already starting. So Sundays are full of mixed feelings.
Sunday for me is just like a day of me resetting myself and my energy, you know. After a long week, I just use Sunday to reset, think about my weekly goals and what I want to achieve for the week. And yeah.
Well, I'm always happy for Sundays. Why? Because at least I will have a chance to leave my workspace. You know, I work as a freelancer, so the energy there is, it's always giving. Sundays are always giving, you know. I have that time to myself and to share my time with people that matters to me in the church.
I'm a church girly, so I like church because, you know, I'll get to meet my friends and we'll get to talk about the new week that we're heading into. You know, we'll declare ahead that this week, God has gone ahead of us and everything. And reality will not dawn on me again on Sunday night that, tomorrow is Monday, we go again. So that's it.
See, we've got an interesting set of respondents. As you can tell, a lot of them really had this feel-good feeling about Sunday, and that was because of what it was that they were holding on to. They held on to their faith. They held on to the fact that they went to church, and that was what gave them the hope, you know, that Monday is going to be a good one. But statistics have shown that that is not entirely the case. 81% of people worldwide actually claim that they suffer from Sunday night to Monday morning anxiety. And out of that same 81%, we've got 83% who attribute this to workplace toxicity and workplace stress. What does that tell you? That this is something that we really, really need to talk about, especially if you do understand the challenges that come with workplace stress and workplace toxicity and the impact not just on the workplace, but also on the individuals themselves who go to work. Now, what are the reasons for this, you might ask? I mean, we talked about workplace anxiety shortly before, you know, I came to stand here. But then there are so many reasons. I'm going to list about 5. Number 1, we've got poor work-life balance, where weekends are spent recovering rather than recharging. In other words, people do not. Remember I said I was going to talk about the work-life balance thing? Right. In this instance, we don't necessarily push for work-life balance. We push for work-life integration because we've realized that it's totally impractical for you to want to have a balance, a 50-50 balance between work and your life. So it's about understanding that life is fluid, and then whatever it is that happens, you take it in your stride. So we encourage work-life integration, right? And then number 2, you anticipate this heavy workload, unrealistic expectations, so much that is demanded of you at a time that you know you really cannot deliver. Number 3, you have a toxic workplace dynamics, as we hinted at earlier. Number 4, we've got the lack of meaning and growth. A lot of people are at work, they don't know the reason that they are at work. And they also find that some organizations really do not involve their team. So there's no sense of growth, there's no sense of impact, and you do not feel that much excited about going to work. And then one of the last reason that I'm going to talk about here is sleep disruptions. You know, we have this idea, especially when it's Sunday or weekend, this is the time for us to rest and relax. So we spend time either going clubbing, we spend time hanging out with friends, we spend time, you know, just doom scrolling, or, you know, streaming all the movies, K-dramas, for instance, you know, all the series. And we keep ourselves up at night. And you find that at the end of the day, instead of having your regular, you know, quality sleep, you end up with like maybe 1 hour or 2 hours of sleep. And that's going to mess up your mindset, right? So you find that you're not really that excited because you're groggy, you didn't sleep well, it affects you in general. Right?
Look, you have done fantastically well just listing out all of this, and it was very appreciated. My favorite thing, I wouldn't say I have a favorite day. My favorite thing is Friday night into Saturday morning, or Saturday night into Sunday morning. Chef's kiss, sublime. A slow Sunday morning, right? Nothing like it. Nothing beats a slow Sunday morning. Wake up late at 11, go grab brunch, stop by, pick up a nice
You're here
gift.
on Sunday mornings.
No, I'm trying to get. Anyway,
you're here every Sunday and Saturday morning.
I miss this. What I'm saying. Oh my God.
You know what? Some of them said. Some of the respondents said when they were talking about Sunday, they were saying that this was their time for them to recharge. Yeah. Right. It was time for them to recharge. The time for them to connect with their community. And, you know, one of the reasons we always say that isolation doesn't really work well when you're dealing with people, because we are social beings, right? In as much as you've been at work for so long, but then when you get home, find out time to, you know, just recharge and then connect with people. Yeah, connect with people that kind of hype you up and, you know, help you.
They're your chargers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Look, we're pretty much out of time.
Sleep is very important.
Sleep is good.
Sleep is very important. And your mindset about stress and about life and about work is something that we need to talk about. People assume that stress is the problem, but when you understand that stress is actually a tool for you and it's an expected part of life, you don't run away from it, but you come up with ideas, you come up with tools and techniques that would help you.
All right.
Such as breathing exercises. Very important that you do that, because one of the ways is to pause. You have to learn how to pause and calm yourself down.
Obviously, there's so much more that you want to tell.
So
but unfortunately, it's almost time for, I think, the sports guys to kick us out of here. But Kris, thank you very much for bringing these details to us. We would like to hear more, so we're hoping that we can have another session. But you get to join us today to say our goodbyes on the show this morning. Kris, thank you very much for all the interesting stuff. And want to say thank you very much to the audience and all the guests that we had throughout the weekend here. Thank you very much for being a part of Breakfast Extra.
It's been quite a sublime lineup from Saturday all the way down to Sunday, 8 a.m. bright and early, giving you the best monologues that you love, as well as the best discuss and analysis like never before. Join us Saturday and Sunday next week. In the meantime, the trio will be back for you Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock to 10 a.m. And that is, of course...